100% loyalty as President Tinubu decorates new service chiefs. Senate passes motion stopping nationwide strike by the Nigerian Labour Congress over subsidy removal. And later on the show, President Tinubu says more than 1 trillion naira saved since subsidy removal, approves buses for student union government nationwide, and rejects arbitrary increase of fees by federal schools. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju and Adewale Adeoye. If you are ready, let the hangout start now. Thank you for staying with us. Let's begin with the decoration of the newly appointed service chiefs with their new ranks. President Bola Tinubu has charged them to maintain teamwork and ensure peace and stability in the country. The president stressed the importance of teamwork, which he credited as being responsible for the gains recorded so far in the fight against insecurity. Let's share the story with you.
The new service chiefs are decorated with their new ranks by President Bola Tinubu. This is a final confirmation of their appointments and a pass mark of confidence on their competence and capacity. President Bola Tinubu wants an improved cooperation between the security agencies and urged them to serve the country diligently in carrying out the task of tackling all threats to national security.
No matter how diverse we are one family, staying in the same house, but living in different rooms. And you are promoting that peace and stability on behalf of all of us and for all of us. May God Almighty grant you peace, progress, and success.
The expectations from the service chiefs is even more higher with the promotion to their new ranks. The service chiefs must respond to the insecurity in some parts of the country that continues to disrupt the safety of lives and property.
So I can assure Nigerians that you have the best team ever, and we're ready to work and we're hitting the ground running. In fact, I'm sure those videos you are seeing are very old videos. Of recent, you hardly ever hear any issue of welfare, shortage, non-payment of salaries. Every soldier is entitled to his pay, and we ensure that they get their pay. The service chiefs are doing a wonderful job, ensuring that the pays and allowances are received as at when due.
He chose the best of the best from each service. His choice also depicts inclusion. No region is left out of this exercise, and the good thing is that merit was placed on the front burner. So we have no doubt that it's a new dawn. We have no doubt that insurgency may be a thing of the past. We have no doubt that the ECOWAS issues we have may also be resolved.
Nigeria has recorded an unprecedented spike in security challenges in the last 10 years. The defense budget also continues to rise without having a significant impact on efforts to keep the country safe. Now, it is not only the new ranks that will be placed on the shoulders of the service chiefs. The peace and security of the country also rests on their shoulders as they execute the directives of the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. Femi Akonde, TVC News.
In PP, the Chief of Defense Staff stands right above everybody as a full-star, two-star general, and the Chief of Army Staff, a Lieutenant General, and so on and so forth like that. So, good to go now.
Yes, it's a Brigadier General, it's a one-star general. A Major General is a two-star general. A Lieutenant General is a three-star general. A full general is a four-star general. That's what he is. So he's above everyone. In the army, that's what they are called. They are it's a four-star general. Okay. You know, you may see just one eagle here.
Two eagles.
You know,
or 2 stars. 2 stars, 1 eagle, and 1 sword.
The point I'm making is that it's a 4-star general.
Yeah, I get it.
Yes. So the others are not office level.
Yes.
So that you can have that control over everyone. So it's important to have that control because he's the coordinator of the service chiefs. When there is a joint operation, he takes charge. He's also the person in charge of all the training institutions of the armed forces, Command and Staff College, NDA, the War College in Abuja. All of those training institutions are under him. So he needs to have firm control over them, and that's why he's placed higher than everyone. The Chief of Army Staff too placed higher than anybody under his control, so that at least
Lieutenant General.
Yeah, so that he can exercise full control, especially his commanders. The people, those who are his own mates, they usually transfer them to the defense headquarters, where they sit in the offices to avoid direct contact by way of command, to avoid direct command, because if they are controlling military formations, they have to take instructions from him. So to find a way around that, they usually send them to defense headquarters. That's where they will stay until they are retired. The president continues to hammer on the need for, what's it called, for unity amongst them, for teamwork. That's why I said, look, we are all members of the same family, in the same house, but in different rooms. He wants them to work together because the progress that these guys made, the immediate past service chiefs, was largely due to the fact that unlike the people who were there before them, these ones were working together from day one. And that percolates even to their own juniors, to the officers under them. They can see that when it is Salah time, the service chiefs come together, they go to Maiduguri, they address the troops together. Before now, it was not like that. You just see the chief of air staff will meet his own troops during Salah, give them a lavish, what's it called, lunch. The other person was doing his own. I said it here before that they were not even attending mosque at the same mosque. No one will come and say, Jide, you lied, because they know it's the truth. And soldiers didn't like that fact. It was sending the wrong signal. But this
never work in harmony.
No, because and I think it was promoted, that behavior was promoted by the conduct of the president himself.
It was aloof. The
president was, he left them for too long, and the impression was given that, okay, by the time it's time to do a shake-up, one of them will simply be promoted to Chief of Defense Staff. So you started seeing politics being played. We've never had that level of disharmony between service chiefs. Everyone wanted to be the Chief of Defense Staff. You know? So, but it's just better we forget about that era and focus on those who are there now. If you see the operation going on against IPOB now, you know that Lagwaja is not joking. The level of operation going on, the arrests that they are making, the frontal attack on those people's bases, their training camps, you know that we are not joking. And those who in that area who are familiar with military operations will know that, yes, for the first time, these guys are facing the heat. That is what we want. Somebody also sent a message to me from Southern Kaduna. He said, Jide, we have to admit that there is progress now. There has to be progress. When I spoke with the Chief of Defense Staff, I said, see, you are coming in at a time when they are wasting people in what's it called? This mango. I said, if you don't put an end to this nonsense, people will start judging you by it. And they said, Jide, don't worry, we'll do something. I know what to do. They've restored the normalcy. At least we've not had, before it was almost
for a month. Back to the
almost every day they were killing people. But now, at least it has stopped. The military went into the bush with them. We can see the chief of army staff also went there to tell those guys that, look, I'm not joking. Finish off these people so that we can have peace. And that's what the president is saying. Let us work hard so that our people can have peace. And I'm sure Nigerians are very appreciative people. If they can see that these guys are making progress, they will be the first to come out to say, yes, we have a good crop of service chiefs.
While it's very important that there's a kind of synergy among these guys. Working together will do us a lot of good. Because right now, we need that internal security.
Yes, I think it's like a football team. You know, you have striker, you have defense, you have the goalkeeper. You know, it's important that they all work together. Even though you always think that the striker is the most important because he's the one that scores. But he cannot score without the midfielder. And if he keeps on scoring without a good goalkeeper, you know, the whole thing will be destabilized. So there's always the need for them to work together. No one is more important than the other. One complements the other. And I think the appointment of the service chiefs is a very unique opportunity for them as individuals. It's a dream of every soldier, either in the Navy, the Air Force, to get to the peak. And only very few people can achieve that peak. Very few. You know, you can only have chief of army staff, only one at a time. So it's a rare privilege for them. And when they were talking about their loyalty 100%, of course, that is the way it's supposed to be. Because it's well defined in the Constitution under Section 217, subsection 2, that they need to be loyal to the country, they need to defend democratic values, they need to uphold the tenets of democracy. That is what we expect them to do. And let us say that we need to give kudos to our military. Because since 1999, we have had successful civilian to civilian transition.
To their barracks.
Irrespective of the challenges, you know, we are moving forward, even though it's very slow. So I hope they keep to their words. They are new. So we expect new strategy, new tactics in order to make Nigeria safer and to defend the sovereign integrity of the country. So I wish them good luck. And we hope they'll be able to sustain the new tempo. There's no doubt that each of them, you know, reading through their, you know, credentials, I think we are lucky to have this team. And we are looking forward to, you know, the best to come out of them.
It's good to reaffirm their commitments at this time. We're looking at what is happening in the West African sub-region, that you have like 6 countries under military threat, and with what just happened in the Niger Republic, that our military, they are not going to try and pull any stunts on the democratically elected administration.
Yes, I like the use of the word stunt. We don't want to see anything like that. The children of anger who are asking the military to take over in Nigeria, they do not know the meaning of military.
Going to the defense.
Some of them were not born. You know, some of them were not born when we had Abacha. When we had Abacha, we lost people to Abacha's downright wickedness, you know. People were disappearing, people were being killed, people were pulled out of their homes. And he had a so-called anti-terrorism unit that was actually being used to
terrorize people.
You know, so these ones were not born, or at that time they were still in their diapers, clearly having stools in their diapers and going around like a headless chicken. So they don't
Sabacha
know.
died in 1998.
Yes, some of them were not born then. They don't even know.
Yes.
You know, I was telling you, my younger sister's son, who said, how are you people coping without internet?
I mean, internet just came when?
He was thinking that, is it possible for a world to exist?
Yes, without phone. Internet? And phone just came 2001 here.
And we worked without we worked without phones. And we delivered excellent work. Not these days when every journalist thinks that he does not have to put in an extra shift. It thinks that it does not have to add an extra line to a developing story. He's rushing to the internet. He's looking for something to copy.
Background. Go to the library and...
What is it? When you see a story, what should bother you is how to make that story better. You add your own line to it. You add your own line in good language. Good language. Those who trained us will say, look, let the verbs do the talking. Leave the adjectives. Let the verbs do the talking. You know? So people do not even, these days, the culture of working hard has diminished rapidly. Everyone wants to rush to the internet. Somebody rush and syndication of stories.
Copy and paste.
A friend of mine said, okay, they even that somebody copied his story.
To the
point that just hold on. He copied it and they pasted it, and his phone number got published in the story.
His own phone number?
Yes. In one of the national dailies. His phone number at the base of the story was published.
That's copy and paste.
Total copy and paste. In those days when Elijah Muhammad and his team used to write those excellent press releases, they would simply remove the first paragraph of Elijah Muhammad's story, remove the last paragraph, reintroduce it, and just pass it like that. There was a story that we did that one newspaper in the FCT area copied, a story of more than 25 paragraphs. This guy merely reintroduced our story and just sent it like that. And that story, he said, was supervised by one of the most senior editors in our country. And it still went like that. Meaning that what we actually call supervision is people just looking at what are the stories on the headline, on the front pages. Let us see front page, let's go to back page, sports. And that's all. You have supervised, you've done the work for the day. People who plagiarized on an industrial scale, you cannot even spot them. You can't spot them. And it becomes an embarrassment. So, I mean, there are so many things that when you just think about it, what this internet has done, the internet is the best invention since light, but it has caused, along with it, all kinds of problems. Made people lazier, made people more irresponsible, made people less accountable. We'll talk about the internet.
All right, moving on now. For a strike-weary country like Nigeria, the planned industrial action by the organized labor is pregnant with foreboding. As such, the Senate has passed a motion seeking to stop the nationwide strike declared by the Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, from Wednesday, the 2nd of August, over hardship brought by fuel subsidy removal. The Senate mandated its leadership to have an interface with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the NLC. But first, let's hear the view of Senator Oji Uzokalu from Abia State.
To my fellow Nigerians and Nigerians, please, I appeal to NLC not to go on strike. Everything in Nigeria is so difficult for the rich, for the poor, and for it is worse to the downtrodden. I employ people, I'm an employer of labor in my businesses, and things are very difficult, both to the holder and beholder. And I'm sure the new president himself knows that things are very difficult. Nobody that lives in Nigeria, nobody that stays in Nigeria does not know that things are very difficult, because we that employ people in our businesses know that things are very difficult. Please, NLC, give the new government some time to sit up. We will be all partners. I've just, yes, they proposed an agricultural bailout. How we can be able to do. The president will be getting it next week. I've written a letter. My office will send a letter on Monday to him. And I want to plead with you people. We are businessmen before being in politics. And please take this plea serious. Do not destroy further the economy. by going on strike. Let us dialogue. Let us talk. There's no way 8,000 proposed by one bank. That was proposed by one bank. I saw the budget. It wasn't the proposal of Nigerian government. It was proposed by one bank in the budget and alone. And it is not the right thing to do. If you give him money, it's not the right thing. I objected the traders' money for 8 years, and that traders' money could have been a better thing to use to expand the economy than what we have done. I'll come back to speak on a bit. My appeal today is frankly to Nigerian Labour Congress. I know that the workers, the people of Nigeria are flawed. Things are so difficult. But we will overcome with good communication and cooperation. Please, do not go on strike to ridicule this economy. It will be worse. Thank you very much, the leadership of Nigerian Congress. You know, my heart, my thinking are with you people, are with the downtrodden. Please, please.
Very tough time, Jide.
Yes.
Tough time.
It is.
And we don't have any choice, but going on strike tomorrow by the Nigerian Labour Congress will be counterproductive to the economy right now.
Yes, it will hurt the economy badly. It will also hurt labor. It will also hurt labor because whether we like it or not, businesses are struggling. And those who think that we should return to the subsidy era, because I hear some hawks say no, they should go back to
160 something naira per
price
litre
that it used to be. Nobody will go back. The subsidy thing should have even gone a long time ago. Once you came up with the idea of PIA, any form of regulation in the sector should go. Because PIA is meant to attract foreign investors into the sector. And a lot of them will not want to come if the sector is regulated. They will not want to come. So the idea of PIA does not even recognize the existence of subsidy, first and foremost. So the moment that law came into being, subsidy should have gone. But the problem is always that the political will
to implement it.
Yes, the political will.
Remember, since 2012 that we've been fighting for this.
The political will to implement policies that are deemed difficult is what Nigerians find difficult to do. I will tell you, when Oshiomhole, former governor of Edo State, decided to conduct tests for teachers, and he discovered that some people who can't see were actually employed to teach. He conducted the same test for teachers and pupil. Pupil passed, teachers failed. Just similar to what was done in Kwara when the former Minister of Works was Commissioner for Education in Kwara State. What was that man's name?
Bolaji Abdullahi.
Bolaji Abdullahi, thank you. That was what he did. But the pressure was huge, and they were approaching, APC was approaching an election. What did Oshiomhole do? People that he had sent packing, he was forced to bring them back, including those who failed. Those
couldn't stand his ground.
Tests that their pupils passed, and they failed as teachers. The pressure was too much, he buckled. Now, the international media and the World Bank, the rest of them, they are already predicting that this exchange rate convergence, the floating of the naira, as well as subsidy removal, could be upturned if the political pressure becomes too much.
On this administration?
That is, they believe that, oh, this administration too will buckle under pressure. But that is not what we expect to see, because the gains will come later. Those who do not want to experience any form of pain, reforms, economic reforms bring pains. but the gains will come later. I've seen countries that people rioted, people were, you know, and the government stood firm. In the end, the benefits came. I've seen the majority accuse. I've given the example of Amejake, the former coach of France. The whole nation rose against him. You are bad. You are useless. Why did you drop David Ginola? You know, their best player at that time, and Eric Cantona. He said if we put them in the team, they will destroy his dressing room. They might send them packing. They fought him. When he won the World Cup without those guys, it was the press that organized a press conference to say, we are sorry. We called you all kinds of names, we are sorry. So the point is, the majority is not always right. The majority is not always right. So we've got to be patient. Any policy that saves us from fiscal perdition, I cannot go against the policy. I know it's painful. I know I feel it myself. I know that transport to my town from Lagos is now 10,000. We feel it. But how about the future? We must just think of the future, not just now. So that is the appeal. And I'm happy that Labour, they are meeting with federal government. They've resumed that meeting. So even the strike may not happen if their talks go on as planned. It's not everything that you can resolve with industrial action. So as the Senate suggested, the Senate said, okay, they will meet with both the president and Labour. Let us see where those talks can take us to. Let government roll out these palliatives as quick as possible. So that our people can feel that, yes, the government at least has some feelings for our people.
Wale, you work more with the civil society arm of this structure. And I know that they would have contacted you guys and everything so that you roll out the drums, that Labour is always collaborating with the civil society and everything. Right now, if you are to participate in this exercise, what are those things that you have on the table?
Well, first of all, the motion by the Senate is not a law.
Okay, let me just pause you there. We'll take this breather. When we come back, we continue the conversation. It's still Journalist Hangout. We'll be right back after this time out.
At TVC News, wherever the big news story is happening, we're geared up to break it. TVC News, first with breaking news. At TVC,
you're heading home from work. In the busy traffic, your car breaks down. Car horns blast. Your car is pushed aside. You call for help. Phone battery blinks and dies. You take a cab. Few miles, tire bursts. What a day. Frustrated, sweating, and tired. Nearing home, darkness envelops the street. Wow! Just one house is bubbling with life. Brilliant lights, loud music, smiling wife, all welcome you.
We alone have light?
Yes, it's JRB Solar Energy Systems, my anniversary present to us.
No matter how dark life is, the sun is gonna shine on everything you do. JRB solar inverters, batteries, solar panels, solar street lights, and more. Telephone 0906 752 1111. Email sales@jrbsolar.com. JRB, the sun is gonna shine on everything you do.
All right, we joined correspondent Ayomide Ajegbe at Oba Akran, where we have a kind of airplane mishap there. Ayomide, can you please give us a kind of update of what is happening?
I'm right here at Oba Akran, the intersection coming through the Oba Akran beside the AC filling station here. It looks like magic to some people that I met here when they said that around 3:35 p.m. today, they just had a loud bang just right beside them. Now, an helicopter having two occupants, of course, were here at the catch. Now, what happened before that time was that they have been citing a kind of a dive from the sky, and they were all wondering as to what was happening. And when the crash happened, everyone rushed to the scene. First responders have been here. We've had NEMA, we've had NASTEMA, we've had the police, we've had all of them here trying to do the bit that they can. Of course, the two persons, the pilots and the co-pilots, have been rescued. We understand that if this had been an airplane, it would have been an issue that we might not been able to resolve till now, because of course we understand that helicopters have the ability to land anywhere. Maybe that is why the casualties that we have not really been that much. Now, those casualties have been taken away from here. We understand that the pilot is in a very serious condition right now. And I have one of the people here who was here when this crash happened. What's your name? What happened? What happened immediately this crash happened here?
So there's two people inside. So we left to go. So they are already gone. So before the community, inside the water. So we need to enter the water. You understand? We need to enter the water and move everything already gone, everything, paper document, everything. There's phone inside, everything already. So we need to move the remaining aeroplane.
All right, we understand that when there's an helicopter crash like this, there are so many factors responsible. It could be a human error from the pilot. It could be an environmental factor. It could be issues arising from the engine. But as of now, it cannot be ascertained what actually is responsible for this crash. We understand that, of course, even in the minute weather, an helicopter can fly. So we cannot say maybe it's very bad weather that is responsible for this. But the number of people here right now suggests that this crash might have been something that is probably done, probably by human error, of course. We know that a pilot might not be in the best condition, or we don't know whether, we know probably there are times that there might be an engine issue. But these people said they are the first person to rescue those who are in the plane at this time before the first responders arrive.
So we'll tell you more about that mishap later, subsequent bulletins. Julie, let's go back to our subject matter now and what we are going to do.
I think I was trying to make it.
Okay, what are we?
So, the Senate, the motion, made by the senator, which was supported by, senators, and it was not a law, so not in a position to stop the NLC from going ahead. I think like Babangida said, what is important is what comes out of the meeting they're going to have with Labour today. But one thing is significant about that motion moved by Senator Sulaiman Kawu Mkano. He is an MPP. And there was no opposition to that motion. And the Senate is made up of people from different parties, including the Labour Party. It means that, irrespective of the party in power, there seems to be an understanding among those who are in the Senate, irrespective of the political party that they belong to, that they think that this strike should not go ahead. But I think we must enrich the conversation. I expect people in the House of Rep and the Senate to go back to their constituencies to talk to their people, to educate people about what is actually the state of the Nigerian economy. The government has spoken about palliatives, but we should not assume that everybody is aware of what is going on or what the government really wants to do. And that is why one of the responsibilities of the lawmakers is to be able to constructively engage their constituencies, 469 of them, the Senate and House of Rep. So, so that we can have a situation where there will be a kind of understanding. What I think is that successive governments have made one mistake over and over. There is this lack of inclusion at the initial stage, at the initial conception of any policy, it's always good for us to dialogue with labor, even before we implement those policies, to let them know this is what the government wants to do. Because there's no doubt that everybody will agree that Nigerians are passing through very difficult times at this moment. But what we should ask ourselves is that, what impact would that rally really have? You know, if we go, you know, if people now decide to stay at home, they don't go to work. So I believe that the important thing is that we should enrich the conversation, have constructive engagement with civil society, you know, and then we can have an understanding about what is the way forward.
All right. Desperate times, they say, require desperate measures, which petrol subsidy removal brought upon Nigeria. But President Bola Tinubu said the federal government has saved more than 1 trillion naira since removal of subsidy 2 months ago. President Tinubu, who addressed Nigerians on Monday, approved buses for students of tertiary institutions. The president also said 100 billion naira will be spent to acquire 3,000 units of a 20-seater compressed natural gas buses for transporters across Nigeria, and rejected arbitrary increase of fees by federal schools. Let's hear from the president.
Part of our program is to roll out buses across state and local government for mass transit at a much more affordable rate. We have made provision to invest 100 billion between now and March 2024 to acquire minimum of 3,000 units of 20-seater CNG fuel buses. These buses will be shared to major transportation companies in the state using the intensity of travel per capita. Participating transport companies will be able to access credit under the facility at a maximum per annum 9% interest rate with 60 months repayment period. I plead with you, please have faith in our ability to deliver and in our concern for your well-being. We will get out of this turbulence, and due to the measures we have taken, Nigeria will be better equipped and able to take advantage of the future that awaits her. And in a little over 2 months, we have saved over 1 trillion naira that would have been squandered on the unproductive fuel subsidy, which only benefited smugglers and fraudsters. That money will now be used more directly and more beneficially for you and your families. For example, we shall fulfill our promise to make education more affordable to all and provide loans to higher education students who may need them. No Nigerian student will have to abandon higher education because of lack of money. Our commitment is to promote the greatest good for the greatest number of our people. On principle, we shall never falter.
Jide, he said he's not going to govern over us. We shouted about the 8,000 naira palliative to families and everything.
12 million families.
You know, families, and he actually reversed
changed
it.
his mind.
Yes.
Now, mark of a good leader.
Nigerians were saying the last administration that anytime the president doesn't not communicate, he doesn't talk to us. Now, in the height of this hardship, Bola Tinubu came yesterday, and that speech was, I don't know. For me, I was rest assured that, look, this person knows what he's doing.
Of course he does, and as I've said before, one marked difference between him and the immediate past president is that, unlike the immediate past president, he is very much concerned about public perception. And because he's very much concerned about public perception, whatever action he takes that suggests that he does not want the masses to breathe, he is prepared to take a second look at that policy and reverse it if he's convinced that it is not in the best interest of the... Now you've seen what they are going to do with 125 billion set aside as conditional grant for MSMEs. 1,500 very small businesses will be given 50,000 across 774 local government areas. 100,000 MSMEs will have access to 500,000 and 1 million naira loan with 9% interest repayable within 36 months. We suggested something like this earlier, and we said, look, if you do this, what it means is that those small companies will be able to hire a minimum of 3 persons, and that way you're also reflating the economy.
Look at
you are getting the economy to work. This 50,000, it could be people doing meshai.
Yes, sir.
You know, all those people
selling pure water,
selling
pure water, corn,
tea. Those roadside tea sellers. You know, they too, their businesses will boom, and ultimately that will jack up our gross domestic product, because the president says he wants to jack up the gross domestic product. Look at the efforts that he is making in the area of agriculture, for example. He said government will invest 50 billion each to cultivate 150,000 hectares of rice and maize. 50 billion each will be invested in cultivating 100,000 hectares of cassava and wheat. Agriculture is the biggest contributor to the Nigerian GDP. It does much better by far than even telecoms and the rest. So he's focusing on that. That is focusing on agriculture as a way of boosting the economy and reducing hunger. And it's also saying that the approved infrastructure support fund for states will improve rural roads to aid transportation of farm produce. You see, attention again being focused on agriculture. So rather than spend all of the money coming into the Ekiti or the Federation account, that last time they decided what came in was 1.55 trillion, but they decided in sharing 907 billion. For obvious reasons, if you push all of that money into the system, it can worsen inflation. But they saw the need in these difficult times to set aside more than half of that money for as savings into the infrastructure fund. So what some of us have argued about was that, look, all of this money going into subsidy payment with some people stealing it can actually help us improve infrastructure and even stop us from borrowing loans, I mean, from taking loans for virtually everything. So no one will say that at the end of the day, we are not getting anything from subsidy removal.
Nice.
1 trillion in 2 months is significant.
Nice program, nice agenda. But a lot of Nigeria will talk about is not the absence of this program in time past. That they talked about implementation. That man selling pure water, that woman selling pure water can get the promised 50,000 naira. Implementation is where the devil is.
I think there is a slight paradigm shift from what we used to have in the past. You know, at a point, the CBN started behaving like a commercial bank, handling
anchor borrowers
and all that. The former CBN governor said between 2015 and 2023, the CBN disbursed 1.09 trillion. And in the first 2 months of 2023, 12.something billion was disbursed. You ask yourself, where is this money? And he said the rice growers gave him 100 million naira to buy the APC form. What is that not kickback? So in terms
of anchor borrowers,
I've read what the president is saying, that they are going to work with states. They are going to work with local governments. And I think that is a fundamental shift from what we have had in the past. In a situation where everything is centralized, you know, in the hands of the CBN, there is no way it will not be subject to politicization, manipulation, corruption, and also corruption. So we need to decentralize the process. And then there's a need for strong monitoring mechanism to ensure that.
Okay, let's quickly take this another break. We'll be right back after this hours.
In today's world, our lifestyle, both at work and at play, depends on connectivity. Our connectivity depends on the devices that make it possible, and these devices depend on electric power. When power fails, our life shrinks, our work drops, and our joy dips. JRB Solar Energy Systems are here to ensure that we enjoy uninterruptible power, uninterruptible joy. Whether you're running a business, an institution, or just a home you return daily to rest, JRB has got you covered. No project is too big for our super digital inverters, long-lasting batteries, and efficient solar panels. Go, dream on, change your world. JRB solar inverters, batteries, solar panels, solar streetlights, and more. Telephone 0906 752 1111. Email sales@jrbsolar.com. With JRB, the sun's gonna shine on everything you do.
If you're just joining us, this is Journalist Hangout, and I still have BKO and Wale Adu in the studio. Wale, before we went on break, we were talking about how to implement this.
Yes. You know, like I was saying that there is a need for fundamental, change in the mechanism of implementation. Because what we saw in the past years, was that the funds are just going to private hands. I was part of the Anko Bura scheme. They even asked us to pay some money. They wanted to give us land in Ogun State. Up till now, we didn't get a dime. They started paying some money to people that, have you received 140,000? The money will come to your account, they will deduct it for fertilizer. So it was a big, huge fraud.
Yes.
And that's why I'm happy that they have appointed investigator to look at the CBN operations. I hope these are the issues that they will uncover. So if the new government is going to work with states and local government, that is a total change from what many governors didn't know how that Anko Bura was implemented. And these are state governors elected by their own people. They didn't work with a lot of associations, and there was no commodity board to control prices. Unlike now, the president is talking about having a commodity board that can,
Wale, what some people even told me about this very useless Anko Bura's program. People formed fake cooperatives to access the funds. At the end of the day, they didn't pay back. Anko borrowers, in terms of payment of the loan, is one of the most useless programs that has come out of Nigeria.
Monumental failure.
Even the CBN governor himself came out, the former CBN governor, the worst CBN governor in Nigerian history. He came out to say, look, people are refusing to pay. How come you had the same people punish banks for unsecured loans and all that? Yet, under your nose, you came up with a program for which people were not even paying back because you were scammed. And they couldn't confront some of these people because they were, the people behind them were big politicians. Forming fake cooperatives just for the purpose of assessing the people that this thing was meant for. It didn't get to them. And we had situations in which they would go and bring rice paddy from outside Nigeria and go to Abuja and build fake pyramids and say this is the result of our rice program. Absolute rubbish. Fake pyramid being erected, the size of those Egyptian pyramids. But what we had were actually rice rebagged. Rebagged. Just fooling Nigerians and frittering away our money. What we want to see is accountability.
Yes, the same thing with
the structure. You know, the white people know us very well. When they were going to release the Abacha fund, they said civil society organizations must be
monitored
to monitor them. And what did we do? No one can say that the Abacha loot was not put to good use because the road projects were clearly spelled out. Lagos-Badon Expressway,
Second Niger Bridge,
the Abuja-Kaduna-Kano dual carriageway. In fact, that Abuja-Kaduna was the biggest project of all because they literally rebuilt the road. Some places where they had bridges, they removed bridges, rebuilt. So
the money worked.
Those people knew that we are notorious.
So before they could give us our money back, they said, "What do you want to do with it?"
You could say, you are giving us conditions over our money. It's because they know us.
Yes.
They know who we are.
So this one must be followed strictly.
If they don't, if it will
implemented to the letter.
Somebody has been telling me that, look, these banks, banks are amongst the most notorious business groups in our country.
Yes.
Very, very notorious.
They handed over their dollar to us.
What they do with the dollar thing, when they came out and say, oh, we are sacking civil, we are sacking Bureau de Change, we are giving everything to bank.
So bank will now...
What is led to? What has it led to?
Call Aboki.
Fatter profits by the banks.
Yes.
Because a lot of this money, they did not give to people. They created artificial dollar scarcity because this thing was meant in a week, you just share like $120 million to people who will not give it out.
Yeah.
To make money, they will simply call their own, when you say you need money, there's a bank, one day we will expose them here. When you go there, you say you need money, they will simply direct you to the Aboki who is outside. Where in the world does that happen? And you want the government policy to succeed? It can't succeed. There are saboteurs, too many saboteurs in this system.
You know, the former CBN governor said the first 2 months of 2023, they disbursed 12.65 billion. At a time that there were policies that people could not even access money from banks, you are disbursing 12.65 billion. That February and January, and this year. How come that you expect us to believe that kind of
If the rice prices didn't come down, that is the first indication that the policy was a total sham, was a total failure. When you come up with this kind of policies that you invest so much money, you expect it to impact on food prices. If cassava, rice, and all that you said they should plant, if the prices continue to go up, that should tell you that your policy has failed. And then you'll be gallivanting all over the place, threatening an ordinary Bureau de Change analyst that you are ready to fight. What punch do you pack that you can threaten to fight someone? Are you Yokozuna or Kogan? I mean, these people, they've just messed up the economy, and it is clear now. Look at, we are suffering the ill effects of bad management of our economy. The ill effect, we have to tell ourselves the truth. And if the new government goes along the same line, we will not achieve anything. So the implementation is what will account for the success of this thing. Everyone is talking about it. We can't keep quiet. And we have been encouraged by the fact that some of the things that we even ask the government to do, they are doing it. We told them buy cars, buy buses. Buses instead of simply distribute at
least people can see those buses physically.
Yes, 3,000 buses, at least it will go a long way. And they will have been converted to CNG-fired engines, which means that the cost of running them will go down significantly. And because it will go down, you have no reason to charge exorbitant fares.
It will have direct impact on the people, no doubt.
Wale Adeoye, for time is fast spent. Thank you. And the master himself, Babajide Kolade Otutoju.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you. And that's our offering today. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can watch the repeat broadcast tonight at 11 p.m. Join us this Sunday from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. for Journalist Hangout on Sunday. We're on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I'm Ayodele Osubaku. See you tomorrow.
By your resume, you are very likely to be a minister of one of the economic ministries. If you find yourself in the same situation you did in CBN, and with due respect, I wouldn't want to say compromised, but kept mute where you needed to talk. I mean, that is it. Secondly, though it did not happen while you were at the bank, but it happened, I mean, you got into the bank with the policy in place. Today, it is a policy of the central bank that every chief executive of commercial bank should exit after 10 years. This policy had nothing, at the point of inception, had nothing to do with the shareholders of banks. Don't you think that such a policy should be reviewed? Because where a chief executive is performing, effectively driving the bank to profitability and profitability after profitability. And then after 10 years, he or she growing the assets of the bank, and after 10 years, he or she is asked to exit, even if the shareholders of the bank are comfortable with him. You agree with me? There are bankers around the world, like David Zalman of Prosperity Bank Share, who had spent 21 years as chief executive because the shareholders of the bank were comfortable with him, and he was adding the needed and required value. What would you do differently as far as that policy is concerned when and if you find yourself in an office that is relevant to this? This is my submission. My two questions.